Hello and welcome to an amazing podcast. And today we are talking about God of High School. This is D and Modi. Modi, what do you think?
I'm just gonna say it right off the bat. God of High School is going to be like this generation's new classic. That's what I think this is going to be. Yeah. Because I'm looking at this through the eyes of like if I was watching this at like 12 years old, this would be my shit. This would be like Bleach to me. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And it's not even that I don't enjoy it now. I enjoy it a lot now. This is great. But I can just imagine how it is for like people who are younger. Like, nah, like this series is gonna be huge. It's already huge as a webtoon, I guess, but it's gonna be even huger now.
Big claims. So for me, I want to semi-disagree. I agree that is a amazing show. I definitely think this might be the anime for the year for me. But there are a few things that keep it from being a true super classic. For those of you who don't know, God of High School is a anime based off a webtoon following the adventures of the main character as he goes through, the main character Jin, going through the God of High School tournament, a bare knuckle battle anime tournament with all the country's greatest high school students and for some reason 40-year-old convicts to come together to fight to see the strongest. Like seriously, that guy, there's no way in hell that guy was in high school. It has to be like the whole, like it has to be one of those like he got held back for crap ton of years. It's like, oh yes, he excels in every single form of hand-to-hand and hand-to-hand combat and every single way to murder a person, but he sucks at math.
That was literally the only thing in my mind in every single scene he appeared in. Like, this man is not in high school. Like, from the moment he appeared, I was like, this man is not in high school. He was in a gang. He had like a whole wife and child. I don't know. Like he's been to jail and back. Like he's led a whole life. He's a withered old man. Like, what is he doing here?
This dude has more facial hair than I had like in college or my first year in college. Like, okay, so this is a super nitpicky thing, but I know it's in high school because anime, and even though that the whole because anime statement is kind of moot because I believe this is a Korean property, but I feel setting it in Japan, in high school is kind of hurting it in my opinion because we haven't seen that much high school drama, and by just making it general, just the God of Combat tournament, you open so many doors for other characters from more backgrounds to come in. Like, you could say there's an age limit, but I feel like the older you get, the better of a fighter you can be. You usually are, at least by anime standards.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you apply anime standards to this since it's a Korean webtoon?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I would say so because it seems very inspired from, Japanese stuff. Yeah. Not that, actually, I don't know. I don't know what most Korean stuff is like, so I can't say if it's actually inspired from Japanese stuff or just other Korean stuff. But that's besides the point. Yes, it does sacrifice the ability to expand the world of the story in different ways by limiting it to high school, or at least it's supposedly is limited to high school. That's just the title. We don't know, which brings me to my point, which is that it's just marketing. Like, it's the God of High School. Like, it's a sacrifice, but you gain a lot from that sacrifice because you're saying straight off the bat, like, you're going for a specific audience that is going to be into it. Like, anyone who is in high school and below is going to be like,
and has a god complex.
much more, and has a god complex and can do Tai Chi, is going to be much more automatically interested in it. Like I think it's a smart decision. Like it's not, because when you think about it, it's not like other people. If you think about it in terms of, it does sacrifice in terms of story, but if you think about it in terms of like getting an audience for the story, it's not like people who aren't in high school are going to not be interested in because it says God of High School, right? But on the other hand, it definitely will attract everyone, right? So yeah, I don't know. I don't see it as a big deal. I think it's smart. It's like very generic, like the title and all, and the premise even, but it works. Like they just did it well. They did it well.
So to that, I will counter that. Maybe it's just for me personally, but I wasn't really feeling the title. If I was just going, I would never watch this just going off the title alone, because it sounds like it sounds like one of those edgelord shows that's like trying to be super like OP and badass and amazing. It feels like it could easily be a Sword Art Online kind of thing, except a little more pretentious.
Yeah, I agree. And even for me, I wouldn't have considered it solely based off the title. But then again, I don't consider anything solely based off the title. Usually, for me, it depends on what it looks like and what people are saying about it. I don't really ever think that much about the title. And by the way, for this, people have been hyping this up for years, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
That goes into my first impression of it, because this is my first time like actually experiencing the series.
To be fair, yeah, because like I know that I was seeing like trailers and stuff for this since January. Like this is the first like anime I've ever watched where I saw like previews for it in like the previous season. I remember I was like, dude, we should watch this right now, and you're like, no, it comes out next season. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. So, and the other thing I was going to say was, I think in terms of the title, God of High School, I think that it's, from what I've seen, it seems like a trend among Korean webtoons to have these types of titles that are just very straightforward and are kind of like
blunt.
They're more like description clickbait type stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's one series that's also really huge. I don't know if it's getting an anime yet. It's called Solo Leveling. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when you hear the name Solo Leveling, it just, I mean, it's not that creative, I don't think, but it literally just tells you like this is going to be a crazy action series. Same thing when you hear like Tower of God and the God of High School. Like it's just, I think it's just a general trend among Korean webtoons, and I think it plays off of, a lot of it is playing off of youth culture of like gaming and stuff like that. And like I just imagine like if I'm like a young kid, like, you know, a teenager or something, and I'm interested in this kind of stuff, and like you know how it is, like you're just like a teenager, you just like stuff with action, right? You just like action, and a series comes along called God of High School, and it's a martial arts tournament. Like there's no way you're not gonna at least try it out, you know what I mean?
What I will say is it does, what you said about the title makes a lot of sense, because based on like the webtoons format, you're not getting judged, like, unlike manga, you're not getting judged by the first page, you're getting judged by the title. And if you need, a really eye-catchy title to be able to, like, start building that audience, or get those viewers.
Yeah, honestly, that's true. And in fact, when I think about it, I feel like the title might actually play a really big role for this series specifically in hooking someone at the beginning, because I do remember like a couple years ago I actually did try the webtoon and like episode 1, and this just shows how bad my attention span has gotten, but like literally I didn't get past that very first opening scene with the old men on the beach, because I was like, I wanted action right then and there, you know. I was like slobbering for.
I was gonna say that's another issue I kind of had was going like the opening doesn't really hook you in as much as it could. And again, maybe it's because I'm coming from a background in manga or a background in love of manga. With manga, like the first page is usually the main thing that kind of sucks you in and grabs you really hard. And I wonder with webtoons if that's the job of the title, because I will say that the quote-unquote first page of this isn't quite as enticing as it could be. It works because it gave you that final like palm print on the island is a really strong image, but I do feel it was a little slow getting there. Of course, this is coming from a guy who thinks Promare is the perfect level of subtlety, so take that with what you will.
I haven't read nearly enough webtoon to be able to tell how they operate. So I don't know. Yeah, you could be right. And also when I think about it, it is kind of ironic that it's a series called The God of High School, but it starts off with like old politicians talking on the phone. You know, that's actually kind of weird when I think about it.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like, if you hear God of High School and you see like in the tagline martial arts tournament, that's it. Like that's it. And then if you get through the first episode, that's it. You're in. Like for me, I've seen stuff like this countless times in my life. But this just goes to show if you do it right, it doesn't matter, because I'm hooked on this series. Like I love this already. 2 episodes in.
What I will say about this is, and this is something I've been trying to like separate out a lot, I will say that the animation for the show is absolutely god tier. Like season 1 One Punch Man level of really good. And while
what? Really?
I think it comes pretty dang close. It doesn't have as much effects work as the first season One Punch Man does, but I think it comes really close to that. And
I would... sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if season 1 One Punch Man is like a 10, I would say this is like an 8. So I would say it's up there, but I wouldn't say it's at the same level.
I say 8.5. 8.5, close 9.
Because for One Punch Man, like, you're right, effects were a big part of it. But like, that helps. You know, if you have the appropriate effects in the right places, it helps. And also for this, obviously, fights were great. The choreography was great, but there were some parts I noticed that just like, I mean, this is so nitpicky, especially coming from me. I'm not an anime. I don't know shit, but like, there are some parts where it just wasn't. It could have been better, you know. But like, that's saying like, it's still an 8 out of 10, at least for me, right? So like, who cares? It's good. It's great. It's much better than average. So it's great.
And the other thing I want to like address is I am not quite... I'm still trying to piece together my feelings towards the story, because, and this is an interesting question I've been asking myself. So sometimes I find myself trying to separate the animation from the story. So, like, for example, One Punch Man, animation aside, it still tells an interesting and compelling story. And the reason why One Punch Man Season 1 and Season 2 were so great is because the animation and the story it was telling were both really high level. And I will say the same thing applies to stuff like Attack on Titan. This, on the other hand, feels like a My Hero Academia situation where it isn't trying to do anything too hyper original, and that's why I'm like saying it's another wobbly statement, because it's basically a tournament fighter show. It's a story for a fighting game, kind of like Tekken and a lot of like Street Fighter. And you don't usually see that sort of story being told in anime, but I will say that said story being told doesn't really get me like hyped, get my mind pumping, the story feels like a framing device for the action. The story serves the action instead of shows like Attack on Titan or One Punch Man where they coexist. It's like
I agree.
In Attack on Titan, the story and the plot are like Digimon. I think it's like Digimon where the trainer and the Digimon are both friends, partners, and they're pushing forward through their tail. With God of High School, it feels like a Pokemon situation where the story is the trainer and the story is the trainer and the Pokemon is the fights. Or the story pushes, the story exists in service of the fight.
The story exists. Yeah, okay. Completely agree with you on that point. Only thing I didn't agree with you on is saying that My Hero Academia isn't original. Are you kidding me? This will lead into a whole other conversation. Mm-hmm. But that is crazy. My Hero Academia is so original, in my opinion. Like, it's not original if you look at it at a base level as like a superhero thing. But if you look at all the different elements it takes and combines into one, it's very original, I think.
I will, and again, this is a separate conversation, but I disagree with that. Like, it is if you told me there was a shonen series about superheroes, that is the exact thing that would come to my mind. But back to God of High School.
Yeah, so I wanted to add on to what I was going to say for about the whole the story not being that fleshed out and that significant. And it's like, yeah, I agree with you. And actually, it's pretty interesting for me because in general, I cannot get into shows, series, manga, movies, anything where it's like everything is there just for the sake of the action, right? And I would agree that is kind of the case with God of High School. But God of High School is different, in my opinion, because it does have enough there to actually make me. Because at the end of the day, the story does it meshes well enough. So like, let's take for example, this is gonna kind of go off on a slight tangent, but Promare, when we reviewed Promare, I talked about how like I don't think the story, like, you know, the action was great, but the story wasn't there. So at the end of the day, I didn't care that much for it. In this, I think the characters make it so that I'm interested in the action because the action has directly to do with the motivations of the characters. And I really like the characters. You know, those three main characters, I really like them. Even the old man, the 40-year-old guy. Yeah. So, and I'm invested in the characters already. I really like them, and I think that's something you have to do if you're going to make a series like this. Like from the very beginning, they very clearly established what kind of people the characters were. They made you like them, and then they set them in opposition to a character you would hate, so you're really rooting for them. And then they have the fights, so you're really like into the fights, like actually emotionally invested, you know. And they so easily set them up as underdogs, even though you don't really have any reason to believe it. Like in just that one little clip when like the fight was starting, they were like, oh, this guy looks weak and he's just stretching. I'm like, oh, I know what's coming.
I will say this also, that the writing for the show is really good, and I will say that, so two things. First, this made me the first episode of this made me realize how horrible the writing for the first episode of Tower of God was. And second one is, if you took out every single inch of the action, would you still be invested in the story? So for example, like for me, if you took the action out of something like Hunter x Hunter, or if you took the action out of something like Naruto or even Attack on Titan, I think I would, or even Tokyo Ghoul, I think the story for those I would still stay really invested in. But for this, I am really on the fence about, and I think that also maybe because it's still early. I still think, I swear to God, I have a feeling that they're going to they're going to like introduce their own nin system, like halfway through the first arc, like after the first arc.
That would be great. Okay, so first, before I answer your question, I just want to say I still stand by Tower of God being a great first episode, in my opinion.
I will fight you to the death on that. Opinions are opinions. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And then, okay, but to answer your question, wait, what was your question again? About
like if you took out all the action, would the story still be able to stand on its own?
Okay, so the answer is no, but, and this is a big but, it's all about expectations and whether the author can set up and manage expectations. When you say straight out from the start, this is a series, a martial arts tournament, then everyone goes into it expecting good action. Like, that's pretty much your main and only job. Like, you don't even necessarily need to have a great story because everyone's there for the martial arts tournament. It's good that I think he does have an interesting enough plot, although it's only been the first 2 episodes. It's like, it's not too fleshed out, but it's interesting enough, right? But I think I agree with you that if it wasn't for the action, I would be much less interested. But I also don't think that's a bad thing because the whole point of the series is the action. Like, it's a high school martial arts tournament. So what do I expect, you know?
Now, I will say that one thing, while I really enjoyed the show, like, if I'm looking forward to, like, if I'm, like, making predictions, I have a strong feeling it's going to do something that always pisses me off, where the first episode did something really smart, where it's established a power hierarchy, where we see, like, the top tournament official, Park Mujin. I swear to God. Park Majin. That would have been such a cool pun. Why couldn't... Like, that's such a badass... That would be such a badass name title. But, we get established that we are in a world where the top person is a literal DBZ character. He is a country buster. So, I have a feeling it's going to go the route that I always hate, where it's just like, this is high school. There's no part of your life that will ever be more important than high school. I feel like there's a strong possibility of them going that route.
Yes. Okay, so 2 things. One is maybe it's very possible to do that, but also it's like, it is what it is. I mean, it's like, it's a high school story. It's like, you know, it is what it is. But the second thing is, so what you were talking about the Park Mujin being like an island buster. What did you mean by that? Because I didn't really understand what was going on there.
Like, he has enough power to literally level an island.
Wait, so he did that himself?
I am assuming that because he had the same mark on his hand, and he was very confrontational with the person. Well, not really confrontational, but...
Oh, are you serious? Okay. I didn't know that. All right. Okay, I did not pick up on that. Yeah, like the mark on the island, I was confused about that. I didn't realize that he personally did that by himself. That's crazy. Okay. So yeah, you're right. That is a pretty interesting way to set up power scaling. But also about the high school thing, going back, I thought of another point, which is that it's very possible. I mean, we've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's very possible that the scope of this is much bigger, and it might not even be restricted to high school. Like, it's just called God of High School, but this is like, you don't know. Like, it could go this, even though I don't think this is the type of series that's gonna let itself get restricted by its title. Like, so just from the start, I think.
Do you think this will be a arc-based show, or do you think that this show will just be, this manga is just centered around the tournament, or do you? Like, do you think? Okay.
I definitely think it's gonna be an arc-based show. Like, I don't see something. I don't see this being the type of show that is just one huge long tournament. I don't see that because I know it's been going on for a long time. It would be crazy if it's just been one tournament the whole time. Maybe it's like many tournaments throughout the show, and I don't know, but I think there's some. It's gonna switch it up. At some point, it's not gonna stay the same thing. And I should say also, if it does do that, then in the long run, this series will actually have turned out to be pretty original and revolutionary, because I don't think I've seen I feel like the reason you only see like one tournament arc in every series is because after you do one, it's kind of like you can't make another one and make it interesting. So maybe this series might actually break the mold and really push the boundaries of the tournament trope, but that's what I have to say on that. What did you think about the character designs?
So that's one of the things that had me sort of disagreeing with you on the whole. This is a classic. So first, this goes for another grounded character design aesthetic, similar to what we reviewed earlier, Ultraman. But I will say this does it much better because each character definitely has a stronger design and are slightly more identifiable and eye-catching. I will also say that the main character design works pretty well. Like if you put him in a lineup of other random shonen protagonists or just anime protagonists, I think I would be able to be able to tell him apart. But I will also say that while it succeeds in bringing its characters to life using a relatively restrained art style, I will also say that the character designs themselves are nowhere near iconic enough to be able to solidify this as a classic. Like, if you look at characters from Attack on Titan or Tokyo Ghoul, Dragon Ball Z, they all have that, super special something, that, secret sauce that mangaka was able to, infuse into those designs. You have that in this, but it isn't strong enough. It's like if all those writers just took a bucket of spice and just dumped it onto their characters. This artist feels like he took a pinch and lightly dusted it around his characters.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think in terms of character design, it's definitely not the most original. And yeah, I agree with your point about when I think about all the things that I would consider classics, they all have very distinctive character designs, absolutely. And it's funny because even something like Attack on Titan, which a lot of people say in general doesn't, the art isn't great. Maybe not, but it definitely has a specific, a art style that stands out, absolutely. And yeah, I would agree about this, that the art style doesn't stand out as much with God of High School, although it doesn't have that aspect, but I still think in many other ways it has the potential to be a classic. But also the other thing I'll say about it is that in general, I do actually like character designs that are more subdued. But the problem when you have subdued character designs, like we talked about before, is that it's hard to make the characters stand out from each other. But I think the author for this series deserves a lot of props because he managed to do a more subdued style, and the characters really did stand out from each other very easily. There's no point where I was confused about who was who.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would say about that. What did you think about the openings and endings and stuff?
I think the opening was effective and it did its job. I think my only issue is I'm not a really big EDM fan. And one thing I noticed that both Tower of God and God of High School has similar sort of musical styling for their opening. They had English speaking openings, And I think Tower of God was composed by, I don't know, Westerner. He was like outside of Japan. And one thing is a double-edged sword because it does separate itself out from other anime, but it doesn't get me hype for the show, and it doesn't feel unique. Like, and maybe it's because I'm not an EDM fan, but I feel like a lot of animes like Hunter x Hunter, Dragon Ball Z, Sword Art Online, a lot of them, their openings connect with the show and match with the vibe, and it makes them, and their openings feel so much more alive, and they have so much life and energy to them. I feel that with this, it didn't have very much life, and I also feel that it wasn't as iconic as it could have been.
Okay. Yeah, I liked the opening. I think it does have like originality to it, and it does have that spark or whatever. But I would say I think maybe the thing about it sounding different because it's like, do you think maybe it's because like since this show is like a Crunchyroll webtoon collaboration thing, like Japan pretty much has nothing to do with the show, I guess, except for the voice acting. I'm assuming. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. But Crunchyroll is an American company. Webtoon is at least partly an American company. So maybe that's what it has to do with. And sometimes I've wondered a lot whether I would like anime openings as much if I actually understood the words like they were saying. Because like when you read the lyrics,
like honestly,
I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I would. The tunes are definitely good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was just saying, like, the subject of, like, hearing anime openings in English. Check out, like, cover artists like Amalie or Nate Wants to Battle. All they do is, like, English openings for anime. And honestly, for me, it even enhances it. The fact that I can understand what they're saying.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, yeah. Also, as for... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that if this was a very Western helm project, we would probably have a dub a lot earlier than what we're getting now.
Oh, that's true. But then again, like, Western, technically, yes, but the Western company is Crunchyroll, and Crunchyroll knows its audience. Everyone's just going to watch the sub anyway, so, you know. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so, in general, I like EDM a lot. EDM's probably, like, one of my most favorite genre, but I don't like dubstep. Dubstep is very played. Dubstep is like 2012, 2013. Like it's so late to be having dubstep. So I didn't really like the song, but I did like the visuals of it, and I did think the visuals matched the song, and I did think the opening overall matched the tone of the show. And I would say the same for the ending. I like this. I like the ending better than the opening, and I really like the mood of it, and I think it matched the tone of the show. And I'm definitely gonna be listening to it more this week.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm like so on the fence about the opening because I don't know. I keep like if you showed me a fight scene like from that and told me to guess the opening, I would be thinking of hard rock or some sort of metal track. Similar to what you would see with, like, One Punch Man. And while I do think the opening for Tower of God matches it really well... Because, again, this is a strictly music sense, because it did have a very fast energy kind of feel. But whenever I think of that, like, tone of music, I think of more when I hear that song, I don't think of physical energy, I think of intellectual energy. If that song was on a Death Note style show, it would match way, way better. Like, this would be this opening would have been the perfect fit for the second half of Death Note.
Okay. I can see that. I think it just has to do with how you feel about EDM or dubstep specifically, because I think this is more upbeat, and I couldn't see that song on Death Note. But yeah, I feel like in terms of in general openings, I think anything could work. like I feel I could even see literally a classical music opening to this if they do it right. I think you just have to do it right. Like it just depends.
Strongly disagree.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's all. Okay. One more thing. I just wanted to talk about how funny this show is. This show is actually, the humor is pretty good. I think like it was funny. Like the girl when she saw the martial artists with the muscles, that was funny. The old lady when she got her wallet stolen, that was hilarious. The fact that he was keeping up with a guy on a motorcycle while he was on a bike, that was hilarious.
Comedy in the show was solid. Like for me, it perfectly hits the proper level of comedic for me to be able to keep following a show.
Yeah, I agree. And the number one most funny thing was the fact that the government invented a device that can heal any wound, and they use it for a high school martial arts tournament. That's peak comedy right there. That's peak comedy.
That was definitely not like an intended joke. And that's one thing that kind of took me out of it a little bit, because that does not look like a world where that level of technology would be available. Like, if you, like, and again, this might be a matter of perspective, but I feel like if that level of technology existed for that kind of purposes, that would have spread a lot. That level of technological advancement would have spread a lot more to the outside world. Like, if it was something like, oh yeah, you're a covert op special forces team and you have these magical nanomachines that heal your wounds, I could believe that a lot more in a world like this. But I feel like if you have that technology and have it to a certain level where you can like blow it on random high school students, I feel like tech like cell phones and a lot, like the tech surrounding that and the tech in the outside world would be on a much different level than it is portrayed right now.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Only thing I would say is we're only in the first 2 episodes, so I really do have a feeling. I don't really have any reason to believe this, but I have a feeling that the martial arts tournament is a lot more than just a tournament. Like I feel like it has big implications for like the story overall.
And one thing I do find, and this is another like small nitpick, but I am surprised at how few people bring weapons into this. Like you would expect someone to have like more than like 3 people to bring some sort of weapon, like either iron knuckles, baseball bats, like traditional like melee weapons. I find that really odd that the normal person wouldn't say like, okay, weapons
someone
are
walks
allowed.
In there with an AK.
Like not even that. Like someone just comes in like dual wielding bats, or like I have to assume that people fighting just straight hand to hand would be the minority.
Well, it is a martial arts tournament, so that has to limit a lot of things, I would assume. Like what was her name? Mori. She had the sword, so I guess that's a martial art. And then there's that one guy in the red tracksuit. He had some kind of like metal bat. I don't know what that is. I'm gonna assume that's some kind of martial art. Okay, all right. So maybe not. Maybe baseball is a martial art. Okay, all right. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for the show for these first 2 episodes. I think it's great. It's like I don't think there's anything so far I've seen that like there's nothing I've seen in this show that I haven't seen before, but everything I've seen that it does it very well. Like it just does it so well, and I'm excited to continue watching it.
It's the My Hero Academia effect where it doesn't do anything super new, it just refines it to a really high level.
Yes, although I would say something slightly different about My Hero, but yeah, that's another conversation. Okay, all right. So, is that all for you?
Yep. I think we both mentioned we'd rate the show about 8.5. So.
Oh no. So I rate the animation an 8 out of 10. I would rate the show, at least the first 2 episodes. I'll rate the first 2 episodes together. I would rate it. I guess I would also rate it 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
it was good. It was very good, very solid show. Maybe even like an 8.5. And I'm looking forward to watching it. One last thing I will say about this show is, and you mentioned it before about the action, how important it is to the show. I'm really wondering. It seems I've never seen a show keep up this level of animation consistently for a long period of time. Never more than like 12 episodes or something.
Yeah.
So I'm really wondering how I'm going to feel about the show if that falls off a little. But also I'm not too worried because the webtoon has been going on for a long time and it's only gotten more and more and more and more popular. So there must be something intrinsic about it, even outside of like the action, that makes it really good. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
So that's been our first impressions of the first 2 episodes of God of High School. We think we're planning on following the show a lot more, and we'll probably post some more content about it soon.
Yep. So stay tuned if you want to see us review episode 3. Thanks. Bye.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Take it easy, stay safe, and have a good one.